What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today I am going to do an unboxing of my new to me 100-year-old Conn C melody saxophone. Let's open it up and see what's inside. All right, let's take a look at it. Woo! This thing is in really good shape, especially for being a 100-year-old saxophone. This is my first time taking a look at it, so I'm just going to kind of look it over real quick. So it's a silver saxophone with a gold wash bell, which is pretty common for these Conn C melody saxes. It's got all new pads. It's been completely adjusted. So normally if this was an alto, tenor, soprano, or bari, I would just throw a mouthpiece on it and play it. But because this is a C melody sax, I have no idea what equipment is going to work, whether my alto mouthpiece, my tenor mouthpiece. It came with a C melody mouthpiece. I don't know what size reed, so I'm going to have to mess around with it and see what works. I'll figure that out, and then I'll be right back. So it turns out that I like my regular alto mouthpiece setup the most with this. So I have the Barkley Brazil Kustom Pop 7 Blue, American Cut, a Legere American Cut 2.25, and a BG Silver Duo. I like that combination the most. The C Melody mouthpiece didn't sound good at all. Everything I read about it online said that it would sound really muffled, and it did. It was just awful to play. I tried a Sios with a 2.5, and that sounded pretty good, but I really like the sound of this Barkley Brazil. It makes it cut a little bit more, makes it pop a little bit more. It just gives it a bigger and more full sound. So now I'm going to play the sax so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'm going to go over it from top to bottom so you can kind of see all the stuff that is on this 100-year-old C melody saxophone. So it has a really nice big full sound. I really like the sound of it. It's somewhere in between the alto and the tenor. Of course, the alto is an E flat alto saxophone and the tenor is a B flat tenor saxophone. And this is kind of right in the middle with the C melody. I don't have my tuning quite worked out on this horn yet. When I first picked it up, it was pretty out of tune. It took me a minute to figure out how to get the air through it. I think it's going to be a learning curve of me being able to get the saxophone in tune. It doesn't just naturally play in tune, especially with a bright alto mouthpiece on it. But it got a lot closer the more I played it, so I'm pretty sure the more I play it, the better I will be at getting this thing to play in tune. I really like the sound of it. It kind of sounds like a lower, darker sounding alto sax. So these C melody saxes were pretty popular from about 1910 until 1930. And then the recession hit, the Great Depression, and they pretty much stopped making them. Then by the time the Depression over, big band music was taking over the instrumental music world, and the alto, tenor, and bari became the main saxophones, and the C melody just kind of died off and never regained any popularity. I want to take a poll. I think that the C melody sax should make a revival. It should become a sax that people start playing again. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think it should come back and be a regular part of the saxophone family, or do you think it belongs in its history? Leave me a comment below. With all of the boutique saxophone brands now, I'm pretty surprised there isn't a really high quality C melody sax on the market. There should be. If there were, I would probably get a modern C melody sax and really enjoy playing it. I really like playing this one for just a short time that I've played this, and I really like the sound. However, there are some crazy things when it comes to the fingers and the placement of everything. You can definitely tell that it is a 100-year-old saxophone. So the way I ended up getting the saxophone is I've always wanted to see melody, but usually when you see them, they are really beat up. So they're usually like $500, maybe $1,000 at the most. And it's from some estate sale, and you have no idea the condition of the saxophone, and the person who owns it usually has no idea the condition of the saxophone. So when you get a saxophone like that, you're going to have to overhaul it, and that's going to cost you at least $1,000, if not more. So buying one that's used and beat up is not a good plan for getting a C melody sax. So I was looking online, and I saw that my buddy John Ledbetter of JL Woodwinds had one for sale. I reached out to him and asked him about it, and he said that they bought it exactly the way I talked about it for about $500. I don't know if it was an estate sale, but it was all beat up, and they did a complete overhaul on it. So I ended up paying just under $2,000 for it, which is a little bit more than I wanted to spend on a C Melody. But getting a C Melody that has been overhauled by John Shop, I know that I have a great quality horn that I'm not going to have to worry about at all. If I bought a used one that hadn't been overhauled, I'd probably end up spending a whole bunch of money on it anyway. If you don't know about John Ledbetter, he is one of the top sax repair guys in New York City, and he has a great boutique shop there where he has a whole bunch of new and vintage horns, and he even makes his own brand, his own line of horns. So he's a great guy, a great player, and a great horn repairman. So enough talking about this thing. I'm going to play it a little bit more, and then I'm going to start at the top and go all the way to the bottom and tell you all the stuff that I noticed about this saxophone. So it's a great sounding horn, really easy for dynamics. My intonation is probably a little bit all over the place, but it's getting better as I play it more and more. So that's something I feel like I'll be able to work out, but it's definitely going to take some time. So here are some examples of just the intonation. I feel like I'm getting the horn pretty much in tune with itself. I'm almost afraid to look at a tuner at this point, but take a listen to me playing some octaves and the intonation on the sax. So I'm starting off with the B. The G sharp hurts. The G sharp hurts. The G feels a little stuffy to me, and I know it's not very well in tune either. F sharp. That middle F really wants to pop out. It's a big sounding note. I don't know what it is about the C Melody sax, but that F pops out like crazy. Listen to it compared to a G. The G is that F is so much bigger than the G. So I'm gonna play some notes chromatically now, just so you can kind of hear how it's in tune with itself. It's not awful, but it's definitely not locked in at all. When I first started playing it, when I first picked it up, it was all over the place. It was just a complete disaster. I was like, am I gonna even be able to play this? But as I played it for about a half hour before I started the video back up. As I kept playing it, everything started to come together. I figured out how to get the air into the saxophone, and it started to feel a lot better and get way closer to being in tune with itself. So let's go over the saxophone and see what's different than regular saxophones, a regular alto or a tenor saxophone. The first thing you notice is it has a micro tuner. So the way a micro tuner works is it's threaded on both sides, and then you twist this and the little pipe goes in and out, and that helps with your intonation. However, this one was locked meaning it just wasn't working anymore, and John decided not to fix it because the micro tuners are known to be a little bit wobbly. So he assumed that I would not want a wobbly neck or not wobbly cork. So he left it as is, where I can just can adjust the intonation with the mouthpiece as opposed to the micro tuner. I think the micro tuner looks cool, and it would be nice to give it a try to see how it works. But if it made the neck wobbly, the mouthpiece not wobbly, I definitely wouldn't want that. I'd prefer to have it where it stays in place. So if you look at the neck, you can see that this is definitely a little different than a lot of C Melody saxophones that you're going to see. This has an alto neck. It has an alto neck. Most of them have a curved neck that look more like a tenor, but this one is an alto neck. And because of this, there is one thing about this saxophone that I absolutely hate, and that is when I let it rest on the neck strap, it just kind of goes at my face. Like if I stand up, let me adjust my camera. It's just like right in my face, so I don't like that at all. So you have to kind of hang on to it all the time. So I don't like that. And then when I'm playing it, this neck definitely is longer than a regular alto neck. So the saxophone sticks out a little bit more It's not super comfortable to play. I've been playing on the side a little bit more. I'm definitely a middle player. I always play in the middle. But with this, I feel like I'm going to be playing on the side a good bit more. Now let's talk about the palm keys. The palm keys on pretty much any vintage sax are going to be a bit of a disaster for how they fit your hand. And this one does not disappoint. It doesn't fit very well at all. And John actually added some epoxy to the E flat key because it was just like a little nub. For some reason, they didn't do a full length key. So he added an epoxy so that actually I could get to it. I can see myself customizing these keys as well to get closer to my hands. I'm going to use this horn as a plain horn. I'll be playing it a good bit. So I will be customizing it so that it fits my hands a lot better. And the same thing is true for the Bis B flat. John added some epoxy so that the B flat was way easier to get to. Without this epoxy, like I would literally have to be way down here to play a Bis B flat. So he added some epoxy so it's really easy to get to. Now, the G sharp, I'm gonna have to do something with this too because it is down really low. I keep missing it. So I'm gonna have to add something so that it's up higher and further out. So the G sharp is down really, really low. And the fingers are a little bit more spread out than on the alto or the tenor sax. So the table is pretty standard for a vintage table. And you can tell why they changed the table to the more modern table when you've played one of these, because you have the C sharp, the B, and the B flat all right next to each other. So getting to the B flat isn't super easy. Getting to the B is not easy at all. The C sharp is pretty easy, but it's kind of tough to push down. So the more modern table definitely is a whole lot easier to play. Then as I go down the sax, I have this key, which I had no idea what it does. It took me a minute to figure it out. So when I am playing a G sharp, this key comes up. That's the only time it comes up when I finger my G sharp. Then I can bring down this key when I push this down. So at first I thought maybe it was a tuning thing, which would be weird, but it turns out that it is a trill key. So if I'm fingering a G sharp and I hit that, I can trill. So it trills between a G and a G sharp. Now on a regular table, trilling between a G and a G sharp isn't super difficult, but with the way this table is out and up, I can see why you would need that trill key. You do have your fork F sharp or your side F sharp, but of course there is no high F sharp key. And then something else that is really standard on these old horns is the low notes, the low keys are on opposite sides. So you have the B flat here and the B here. Normally you'd have them on one side or the other, but this one splits them up. One of the things I read over and over when I was researching the Conn C melody saxophones is that there are tons of different variations. They were constantly tweaking the design. So a lot of them have the tenor neck, some of them have the alto neck. They were just constantly making little changes to the saxophone over and over until they tried to get the perfect C melody saxophone. The low notes come out really easily and they are big and fat. However, the fingerings are pretty tough because of the table. I can also do overtones fairly easily. And I am able to get altissimo out with my alto sax altissimo fingerings. Obviously, I'm gonna have to work on that a little bit and tweak it and see what fits this horn best, but I can get altissimo notes out with my alto sax fingerings. However, they're not perfectly in tune. The subtones are also really nice on the saxophone. John did a really great job with the overhaul. The horn plays great from top to bottom. Now, of course, I love funk on the saxophone, and the C melody definitely was not made to play funk sax, but I love to play funk sax. So let's give it a try and see what happens. I can definitely get some funk out of the saxophone. I'm sure I had a lot of intonation problems on there, so please don't leave me comments about the intonation. I'm still working on that. But the articulation is super crisp and really clean, and it's a lot of fun to play funk improv on this Conn C melody saxophone. So that is a full rundown of my 100-year-old C melody saxophone. I'm sure this will be popping up in future videos. If you have any questions, leave it in a comment below. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you'd like to dive deeper into my saxophone world, you can always check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School.